Series 3 of Doctor Who can be described as a roller coaster, as the series has grown in more confidence as the episodes are now feeling more bolder and brighter than ever. Judoon on the moon, cackling Carrionites, crabby Macra, Daleks in Manhattan and beyond. Series 3 was the introduction of Martha Jones, who had to prove herself to audiences that she could fill the void left by Rose Tyler, and today we're here to discover if she did. This is Series 3, all 9 stories and 13 episodes. Off we go. At number 9, we have Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks. Whilst not a total write-off, this Dalek story has good ideas going for it, but it sadly falls flat in the second episode. The last 4 Daleks in existence are kidnapping humans from the 1930s New York in the height of the Great Depression in the hope of rebuilding the Dalek race by imprinting humans with Dalek DNA. The idea is pretty solid, but for me the execution lets it down, particularly in the second episode. The Daleks understand that in order for a chance to survive they must adapt and evolve, and this is a good idea. Sadly, the results with the Dalek-Sec hybrid are pretty lacking. The design looks too silly, and the American accent as well leaves much to be desired. The Hooverville setting is a very nice backdrop for the story. People are unemployed and starving, and they're desperate for work and are being exploited for cheap labour. This is pretty strong stuff and makes sense for the Daleks to involve them, as both the unemployed and the Daleks are mirror images of each other. They are both desperate for survival and are working with what resources they have. Sadly, the second episode is where this story falls down for me. The Hooverville setting becomes forgotten about as the centre of the action is at the Empire State Building, and the pig slaves aren't exactly creepy and just feel quite pointless. Why not use the unemployed if they are desperate for work? You don't really need the pig slaves. The Doctor helping the Daleks as well is something I don't buy either. The Daleks are planning to create their own new race despite the humans never asking for this, and it seems massively out of character for the Doctor because he's working with the Daleks who have done kidnapping and murder, and it's not like he's forced into this situation, he willingly goes along with it. The first episode is solid, not perfect but good, however the second episode is where the potential becomes squandered, and that is a shame. Overall, I can sum up this two-parter as good ideas but a lacklustre execution. At number 8 we have The Lazarus Experiment. If you want the perfect definition of alright Doctor Who that can keep you entertained for 45 minutes, The Lazarus Experiment is for you. Professor Lazarus, with the help of his genetic manipulation device, rebirths himself into a younger man, but the results prove deadly for the human race. This episode has a great opening 10 minutes and a great climax, but the middle is a lot of running up and down corridors and being chased by a CGI monster. That's not to say the script is wholly devoid of intelligence, as the interplay between the Doctor and Lazarus is really well done. Both men can relate to each other, as the Doctor has been reborn 9 times at this point, or 900, but even having lived so long, the Doctor understands that facing death is part of being human, and no one should change that. Sadly, I think the script loses a lot of its intelligence when Lazarus mutates into a monster. The design for me is just too over the top and it just lacks any sort of subtlety or threat. The running up and down corridors just gets really repetitive and tedious, and could have been an interesting analysis of the catastrophic consequences of never growing old. But as said before, it just becomes your average running up and down corridors from silly monsters. However, that's not to say the episode isn't entertaining. It's a fun mad scientist B-movie with a bit of smartness to it, but it could have been so much more. At number 7 we have the Series 3 finale, Utopia, The Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords. This finale started off very well, but I feel as the story went on, the weaknesses started to show and crack. Utopia is a terrific opening, as the Doctor and Martha meet Captain Jack again and discover the last of humanity at the end of the universe, looking to escape to Utopia, but the leader of the humans, Professor Yana, is revealed to be the Master. Following the regenerated Master to Earth, the trio discover he has become Prime Minister of the UK and plans to reveal a new alien species called the Toclophane and conquer the world. Utopia is a fantastic episode as the Doctor vows to give humanity one last chance to survive, and it's blessed with a great sense of pace, world building and brilliant supporting characters. This makes the ending all the more shocking as the Master's consciousness is revealed to be inside the Watch, and this episode still has one of the series' best cliffhangers ever. And whilst I think John Sim is a good modern day Master and a great polar opposite to the 10th Doctor, the way he's written sadly doesn't convey much threat, and he can come across a bit like an Adam West Batman villain sometimes, but he certainly has his threatening moments. The Sound of Drums is also brilliant build-up, which leads to an epic cliffhanger. Unfortunately, Last of the Time Lords drops the ball and the resolution takes notes from Superman the movie, and it's all reversed apart from our main characters remembering the events.
Oh, how convenient!
The Master's scheme is great here. Pillaging the Earth and making it a ruin whilst the Doctor is his tortured prisoner is fantastic to watch, and it breaks both of the Doctor's hearts. But then, turning the Doctor into Dobby the Time Lord is just silly, and the CGI hasn't aged well, and then turning the Doctor into Jesus just feels really self-indulgent. The TARDIS keys are an interesting idea for a disguise, but it doesn't work in execution, as the Toclafane should want to see Martha when they know she's resisting against the Master. Despite that, it's a great departure for Martha, as she walks the Earth by herself for a year, and more than proves her worth as a companion, and is much better than being a rebound for the Doctor. Whilst not entirely perfect, this three-parter is an entertaining watch, but it could have been a lot better. Number 6, 42. Ah yes, we come to an episode written by the beloved Chibnall. Well, at least by me. But anyway, for a first try at a Doctor Who script, I think 42 is an action-packed emotional thrill ride from beginning to end. Landing on the SS Pentalion, the Doctor and Martha find a crew heading into the sun, but what is the mystery behind the powerful star, and why is it killing the crew? 42 isn't the most revolutionary script in the world, but it's full of energy and high-octane entertainment. Chibnall puts the Doctor at his most confident with business as usual, but two-thirds of the way in, the Doctor becomes possessed and loses control of himself, and it's terrific stuff to watch. It's a brilliant story for Martha as well, as once again she's separated from the Doctor, and whilst the threat of her dying in the future was done before in Gridlock, what prevents this from being repetitive is the phone call she makes to her mum, and it even gives me a lump in my throat sometimes. Furthermore, Martha saves the Doctor in this story, more than proving her worth as a companion. The rustic aesthetic of the spaceship looks fantastic, and it's steaming, no pun intended, with atmosphere and superb direction from Graham Harper that give this episode an energetic feel. Whilst 42 is not the smartest script of the season, it has fantastic pacing, a lively Doctor-companion dynamic, and has some great emotional highs too. If you haven't seen it in a while, give 42 a rewatch. It definitely doesn't deserve to burn into a living sun. Number 5, we have Smith and Jones. As the introduction for Martha Jones, this episode had a lot to prove, and did it succeed? In my opinion, yes. Medical student Martha Jones is transported to the moon with her hospital, where Rhino police are after a blood-sucking fugitive, and she meets a mysterious patient called the Doctor. This episode is pretty bonkers for a season opener, as we have a hospital transported to the moon and a blood-sucking pensioner being pursued by a Judoon platoon upon the moon. Smith and Jones is a really breezy watch and shows how worthy Martha is to join the Doctor. She keeps calm in a situation and is the one to uncover the Plasmavore after remembering its skills of assimilating biology, and even saves the Doctor's life by resuscitating him. That is awesome. But she's very relatable, as the opening establishes brilliantly how she just wants to escape from her bickering family, as she always feels like she's caught in the middle of it. The Judoon are a fantastic creation, and they may be scary looking, but they are amoral and don't want to take over the world, and they make a fantastic entrance. You could definitely hear kids in the playground at the time copying their speech pattern. Not that I was one of them. If I had criticism, it would be the genetic transfer is the most forced plot point in Doctor Who, though that may be hyperbolic. With a promising new companion, great monsters and energetic pace, Smith and Jones is a great opener for the series that kicks off Series 3 with a bang. At number 4 we have Gridlock. Rounding off the loosely connected New Earth trilogy, in my opinion they saved the best till last, as this is easily the best trip we've had to the year 5 billion. The Doctor takes Martha to the city of New York, only to be kidnapped and ending up on the motorway where millions of citizens are trapped, with the Macra lurking below. This episode is definitely one of the most eccentric of the season, as we have cat people, giant faces in a jar, and weirdest of all, Macra that lurk in the Undercity, even though we all know there's no such thing as Macra. Gridlock is a very bold episode with great performances from our leads. David Tennant feels truly settled in the role, and it's a great episode for Martha, as she's mostly separated from the Doctor and proves she's more than capable of holding an episode on her own. Russell T Davies takes us to a world that we've already seen before, but adds more substance to it. We've seen the cat people in the face of Bo, yes, but Davies adds delicious subtext about faith and forgiveness that gives this episode a memorable experience. There's even gritty social commentary with drug use, but it doesn't feel out of place or tonally inconsistent, as the world building is so good here. The performances, visual effects and music are all on point. Gridlock is completely insane and a bit magnificent. At number 3 we have the Shakespeare Code. The Shakespeare Code promises us the Doctor, Martha and William Shakespeare investigating witches in Tudor England. Yep, that sounds about right for 45 minutes. Taking Martha on her first trip in time and space, the Doctor promises her a night out at the Globe Theatre, containing William Shakespeare himself. However, witches stalk the streets of Elizabethan England, And what is the connection between the Witches, an insane architect, and Shakespeare's lost masterpiece? This episode is a gorgeous looking historical and gives a great subversion of Shakespeare's character, making him the rock star of his era, and even disappointing to when the Doctor meets him. That's a really priceless scene. The costumes, sets and visual effects all look gorgeous, and the Carrionites are a very worthy villain, as they use words and magic to steep the Earth back into the Dark Ages. Shakespeare's involvement is vital to the plot rather than just being a glorified cameo, as the Witches uses his words and the design of the Globe Theatre to bring their race back. The joining of witchcraft and the power of etymology isn't simply Doctor Who dabbling in magic, but inventing a creative new science that has evolved around words, and words can stir emotions. It's a very imaginative concept. The script is witty, full of great dialogue, gorgeous production design, and it's marvellously entertaining. Even if you hated studying Shakespeare at school, you can't deny the power of words and old magic. At number 2 we have Human Nature and the Family of Blood. A bit of trivia regarding this episode. This story is adapted from a novel of the same name in the 90s and had the 7th Doctor turn himself human. Now, I've not read the book beyond that, but let me know in the comments what you think of the book, if you've read it and which medium you prefer. Anyway, this story involves the Doctor becoming a human teacher named John Smith in 1913 in order to hide from the family of blood who have a limited lifespan and desire a Time Lord's immortality to live forever. This is a beautiful looking historical and it's filled with great performances. Tennant as John Smith injects subtle differences between the Doctor and Smith. For example, John Smith is definitely a product of the time, being a strict teacher from 1913 who will gladly have young boys fight to defend the school, which I'd argue the Doctor is above those actions. Agyeman as Martha is also fantastic, and it really adds growth to her character as she has to look after the Doctor's consciousness contained in a watch, and her reaction seeing the Doctor in pain while his biology is being rewritten is excellent, trying to keep it together but also looking utterly terrified. Furthermore, this story isn't afraid to tackle racism of the time, as Martha is faced with racist comments from schoolboys and staff members, which really shows how different this time period is, and how she has to live with it temporarily. Jessica Hines as Nurse Redford also gives a great performance as she ends up falling in love with John Smith, and even though she loves John and could have a life with him, she knows that defeating the family will be for the greater good. The Family of Blood are terrific villains with their scarecrow minions, and the way the Doctor defeats them is brilliant. It shows how ruthless this character can be. The family wanted to live forever, so the Doctor made sure that they did. With excellent production values, wonderful performances and beautiful moments, Human Nature and the Family of Blood is one of the 10th Doctor's finest. At number 1 we have Blink. In 2009 and 2014, Doctor Who magazine conducted a poll that would rank all the stories from best to worst, and in both instances this story came second. So according to the majority, that means it's the best of the David Tennant era and the best story from the 2000s, which is so interesting because the Doctor is barely in it. In an abandoned house, Sally Sparrow and her friend Larry find the Weeping Angels and a blue box with instructions from the Doctor from 1969 that they must send the TARDIS back to him to make sure the angels don't feed off the time energy in the TARDIS. Now this story introduced the Weeping Angels, which are a genius creation, as they don't exist while they're being observed. They turn to stone when looked at, but if you blink, they send you back in time and let you die of old age, in the wrong time. The only psychopaths in the universe to kill you nicely. Blink is one of the most superbly directed episodes in the entire history of the programme, as we never see the angels move, even when the characters don't, because we, the audience, can see them. Some say it's too meta, whatever that word means, but I think it's genius. Furthermore, this has excellent use of time travel, as the Doctor is on a DVD feature reading aloud from a transcript of a conversation he won't be having for another 38 years. Confused? You won't be. Sally Sparrow is also a very likeable character. She's resourceful, clever, friendly, but has a good sense of humour. And you know what? It's great to see that Carey Mulligan has been nominated for an Oscar this year. Blink is also an episode I'd recommend to anyone who wants to start watching Doctor Who, as it has everything that makes the show so brilliant. Clever uses of time travel, likeable characters, and excellent use of horror. It's easily one of the series' finest. And that was all for Series 3. Overall a strong season, as its highs appear to be reaching higher than ever before, and its lows are nothing as low compared to the last series, but more middling in comparison. Series 3 is holding no punches back, and with Martha's departure we have a new companion slot to fill. Luckily we'll be getting Donna Noble next time, as we venture into one of the strongest series of the new series run so far. See you all next time for Series 4.